Imagine realizing that the greatest hero in ancient mythology isn't actually a hero at all.
Right, like not even close to a hero.
Exactly. What if he's actually a profoundly traumatized war criminal who, fundamentally destroyed his own civilization?
It completely flips the script on everything we thought we knew.
It really does. Welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are looking at Christopher Nolan's staggering cinematic reimagining of the Odyssey.
And it is truly staggering.
Yeah, and our mission here is to ask you to view this story not as some dusty historical artifact, but as a dire, urgent warning for our modern world.
Because Nolan is posing a really uncomfortable question to the audience.
He is. He's asking, are we a civilization that genuinely looks out for one another, or are we, like when the pressure mounts, just pigs at a trough fighting for scraps?
And that question it hits you immediately, especially given the film's abrasive opening.
Oh, the opening is wild.
Yeah, starting an epic historical film with Travis Scott quoting the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Wait, yeah, I was so caught off guard by that.
Right. But it sets a very deliberate tone. Hip-hop serves as the closest modern equivalent to the ancient Greek oral traditions.
That makes total sense, actually.
Yeah, it's urgent, it's rhythmic, and it's deeply rooted in the harsh realities of survival. Yeah. It signals to you that these stories were never meant to be, sterile or polite.
Right, they weren't just sitting in a library somewhere.
Exactly. They were meant to be spoken, felt, and adapted by a culture in absolute crisis.
Which completely shatters any expectation of a traditional sanitized sword and sandals epic.
Totally.
And it anchors us right into Odysseus' psychological reality. I mean, he's not returning to a stable, thriving society at all.
Oh, no, not even a little bit.
He's navigating a magnificent civilization that is teetering on the absolute edge of total collapse.
And to understand his psychology, you really have to understand the fragility of the world he inhabits.
Right. The historical context is huge here.
Yeah, historically, right after the events of the Trojan War, which is around 1200 BC, the Mediterranean was dominated by these massive interconnected empires.
Like the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Hittites.
Exactly. But they were all devastated by mysterious seafaring raiders, known simply as the Sea People.
The Sea People. It sounds so ominous.
It really does. And this wasn't just a military defeat. It was a total systemic failure that plunged the Greeks into a 200-year dark age.
Wow.
Yeah, where literacy completely plummeted. That's why these stories were passed down orally for 2 centuries before Homer ever wrote them down.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I think of the Greek Empire at this moment as like a perfectly built, towering Jenga puzzle.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. It's complex. It's this marvel of engineering relying on intricate trade routes and mutual defense. But because it's so specialized, it's incredibly precarious.
Very fragile.
Yeah. And Nolan uses this historical Bronze Age collapse as the literal marker for the decline of Greek society.
Right.
Odysseus and his men are basically standing around watching someone pull out the foundational block of that Jenga tower.
And Nolan constantly references these Sea People to force a decision on the characters.
Yeah.
Because the Sea People aren't merely a historical footnote here.
Right, they represent something bigger.
Exactly. They represent a terrifying mindset. When a society faces that level of existential threat, all the foundational structures just evaporate.
The Jenga tower shatters.
Yes. And everyone desperately scrambles to hoard the pieces. Nolan uses the Sea People to ask you, the audience, when the tower sways, do you reinforce it, or do you become a barbaric plunderer and start stealing the blocks?
It's civilization versus barbarism. That is the overarching theme. But what actually keeps a society from crossing that line?
Well, that's the big question.
In Greek culture, that tension is managed by one ultimate unbreakable mandate, a rule that Odysseus tragically violates, which sets his entire doom in motion. We are talking about Zeus's law.
Zeus's law is the absolute bedrock of their civilization.
It really is.
It is the strict mandate to always treat guests well and show immense kindness to the lowest, most vulnerable members of society.
Because you never know when a beggar at your door might actually be a god in disguise.
Exactly. As Odysseus observes early on in the film, the best view of a man is from below.
It acts as the ultimate metric for civilization, right? Like how you treat someone who offers you zero transactional value.
That's spot on. It's the true test of character.
Wait, hold on, though. This is where I really struggle with Nolan's interpretation.
Oh.
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting. Growing up, I always viewed Odysseus as, like, the Greek Batman.
Right, the ultimate tactician.
Exactly. The Trojan Horse is legendary. It's taught as the pinnacle of tactical genius. So I'm having a hard time accepting that Nolan completely erases that heroism and reframes the Trojan Horse as a literal war crime.
It is a massive shift in perspective, for sure.
How does he justify making our protagonist the villain of his own story?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally comes down to the Greek understanding of strategy.
Okay.
Warfare wasn't inherently evil in their worldview, but it required the wisdom of Athena.
And wisdom means something very specific there.
Yes, wisdom means knowing not just how to win, but who should live and who should die.
Right.
The Trojan Horse bypassed wisdom entirely. Odysseus disguised total malicious annihilation as a sacred, loving gift to Athena.
He weaponized their faith. I mean, the Trojans brought the horse inside specifically under the protection of Zeus's law.
They did.
They thought they were being good hosts to a divine offering.
And by exploiting that specific law, Odysseus didn't just defeat an army. He broke the social contract that separates humans from animals.
That is heavy.
It is. The psychological mechanism of moral injury kicks in right here. We watch Odysseus watch his own men slaughter an innocent Trojan woman who happens to share Athena's exact face.
Oh, that scene is just gut-wrenching.
It really is.
Then
He realizes his brilliant strategy was actually just unchecked barbarism wrapped in a clever lie. His lie unleashed the absolute worst of humanity.
which completely changes the weight of that little statue of Athena he carries. The one Penelope gave him. It's no longer this, token of protection or a symbol of his cleverness.
Not at all.
It's a constant, agonizing reminder that his lie directly caused the deaths of innocent people. He broke his own innocence.
And that shattered innocence completely alters his motivation going forward.
Right.
He's no longer seeking kleos, the immortal glory that drives the traditional Homeric hero.
He just wants to go home.
Well, Nolan gives us a wounded, deeply traumatized soldier who is desperate for atonement. He's trying to scrub the blood off his hands, but he's thrust into a world where the laws of civilization he broke no longer apply to anyone else either.
It's like a nightmare reflection of his own actions.
Exactly.
And his crew is already slipping. I mean, on their way home, they act exactly like the barbaric sea people when they sack an innocent village just to get some food.
They become the very monsters they were fighting.
And then they run into the Cyclops. Think about this. It's like walking into a billionaire's sprawling mansion.
Okay, I like this analogy.
You sit on their couch, you eat the food out of their fridge, expecting basic Zeus's law hospitality.
Right, because that's the rule.
But instead of offering you a drink, the billionaire literally consumes you because they operate on a level where societal rules just do not apply. They view you as an insect.
What's fascinating here is the psychological whiplash Odysseus experiences.
How so?
Well, back in Troy, he and the Greek army were the untouchable, godlike giants. They dictated who lived and died.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Now, the power dynamic is brutally inverted. The Cyclops ignores Zeus's law entirely, eating his men as nonchalantly as someone eating a chicken wing.
It's terrifying.
Odysseus is forced to feel the exact helplessness he inflicted on the Trojans.
And Nolan's omission of the famous "my name is nobody" trick changes everything about that sequence.
It really does.
In the myth, Odysseus uses his intellect to win glory, proudly shouting his clever trick as he escapes. But Nolan cuts that completely.
Wow.
Odysseus doesn't outsmart the Cyclops for glory. He just shoots the Cyclops out of pure, unadulterated rage and revenge.
It strips away all the heroism and just leaves this raw, ugly survival instinct.
Yeah.
And the rationalization he uses immediately afterward is so telling. He tells his terrified men the gods help those who help themselves.
Such a chilling double meaning.
Right. Yes, it means take action, but it also literally means help yourself to whatever you want.
He is actively advocating for the very barbarian, plundering lifestyle he perfected when he sacked Troy.
Exactly. And they only survive by leaning into deception, hiding under the sheet.
And they immediately run into the cannibal giants right after that, driving the point home even further.
The universe is repeatedly showing Odysseus what it means to be powerless against beings who just don't respect life.
But as terrifying as those physical threats are, it feels like the psychological monsters are the ones actually keeping him from getting home.
Oh, without a doubt. The physical monsters are just symptoms of a broken world. The true barriers are his own trauma, his guilt, and the cognitive dissonance of his actions.
Like with Circe.
Exactly. Take Circe. She isn't presented as a villainous witch turning men into pigs just for amusement.
Right.
She's framed as a survivor of profound trauma. The magic is a calculated self-defense mechanism because she knows from painful experience that men arrive as barbarians who simply take what they want.
She's fiercely protecting her sister, who is trapped in the form of a caged bird, which is just another heartbreaking victim of abuse.
It's tragic.
And Odysseus has to confront the reality that he is part of the demographic she's defending herself against.
That confrontation with his own sins reaches its peak in the underworld.
That scene is incredible.
The film limits this sequence beautifully, avoiding a sprawling parade of ghosts. He only interacts with 3 figures, the most crucial being Sinon, played by Elliot Page.
Wait, the inclusion of Sinon is such a layered masterstroke.
It really ties it all together.
Because Sinon was the victim of a childhood lie told by Antinous, the boy who eventually grows up to be Robert Pattinson's character, the lead suitor terrorizing Odysseus' home.
Right.
And because of Antinous' lie, Sinon took his place in the Trojan War. And then Sinon was ultimately killed by Odysseus' lie with the Trojan Horse. It's this devastating web of deceit.
It forces Odysseus to look at the direct, localized human cost of his grand strategy.
Yeah.
He's looking at a boy whose life was traded for a tactical advantage. And when they later encounter the sirens, the psychological tier just deepens.
Because they don't just sing a pretty song.
No, they don't sing an alluring, hypnotic melody. They sing directly to your soul about the specific things you had and what you lost forever.
Odysseus hears that song and realizes exactly what he lost. He lost his innocence.
He did.
He lost his fundamental belief that the Greeks were a righteous, civilized people. He knows they are just as corrupted as the enemies they fought.
Completely.
So what does this all mean for our hero and his crew? Because the crew clearly doesn't share this internal revelation.
The crew is the ultimate test of societal endurance. When they reach the cattle of Apollo, they face a stark choice. They can either endure hunger and act as civilized, honored guests, or act like the sea people and take what they want.
And scarcity breaks the facade of civilization.
It always does. They slaughter the cattle, proving how quickly societal rules evaporate when survival is on the line. They fail the test, and Odysseus is left completely without his men.
But Odysseus isn't immune to this rot either. I mean, he actively sacrifices some of his own men earlier by choosing to sail closer to the cliffs instead of the whirlpool.
He does.
He knows men will be taken by the monster, but he rationalizes it as a necessary loss for the greater good of the ship.
That compartmentalization is the core of his moral injury.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He convinces himself he's making the hard leadership call, but really he's just playing God again, deciding who is expendable.
Right.
That rationalization proves his internal rot. He is completely stripped of everything, his men, his righteousness, his identity.
Which brings us to the 7-year voluntary enchantment.
Yeah.
He chooses to stay hidden, actively killing his body and suppressing his memory. It's a poignant, heartbreaking metaphor for the modern war veteran.
The parallels are undeniable.
You see the direct parallel to combat veterans who turn to profound numbing, whether through isolation, drugs, or alcohol, just to silence the inescapable trauma of a war they can't leave behind.
Especially when returning to a society they no longer recognize.
Exactly, lacking a proper welcome home.
It is a devastating reality. You sacrifice your mind and your innocence to protect a society, and when you finally get back, you are utterly alienated from it.
Yeah.
But eventually, Odysseus accepts Athena's idol again. It's a quiet, powerful signal that he is finally ready to stop numbing himself.
He's ready to embrace wisdom and try to participate in civilization again?
But reintegration requires a test. He doesn't just march into his palace in shining armor.
No, upon returning to Ithaca, he adopts the disguise of a feeble beggar. The master of the house returns in the lowest possible social standing to administer the ultimate empathy test on the suitors, using Zeus's law. And the name he chooses for this disguise, Sinon.
He wears the name of the boy his lie killed back in Troy.
It's so powerful.
It is. He forces himself to bear the weight of his greatest sin while demanding to be judged as the lowest of the low.
And the suitors fail spectacularly.
Oh, miserably.
They mock him. They force him to eat discarded food from the floor. They treat him like an insect, mirroring the exact barbarism of the Cyclops.
And while he tests them, we also see the sheer brilliance of Penelope.
Yes, she is incredible in this.
She isn't a passive damsel waiting to be rescued. She is his absolute intellectual equal, having effectively ruled the kingdom for 20 years through her own complex deceptions.
Like weaving and unweaving the burial shroud just to delay the suitors.
She is a master strategist. She initiates the climax by bringing out Odysseus' great bow, standing before the hall and declaring Show us who you are.
Such a great moment.
It's a challenge operating on multiple levels. She is testing the suitors to reveal their true, weak character. But she is also testing Odysseus to see if he is finally ready for redemption.
This raises an important question for the climax of the film. As Odysseus strings the bow, how do we evaluate these suitors?
Right.
Are they just arrogant frat boys overstaying their welcome? Or are they something much more dangerous? Are they essentially the sea people just operating from inside the palace?
They are the internal rot. They are barbarians who have learned to wear fine clothes, draining the lifeblood of the civilization from the inside out.
They don't build, they only consume.
Exactly. And Odysseus makes this explicitly clear right before the fight. He looks at them and declares them the people from the sea.
He and his son take a final stand against them. And quick side note, the son actually uses combat tricks learned from Mentor, whose body Odysseus burned earlier as a tactical distraction and an offering, which is wild.
It is a crazy detail.
But this fight forces Odysseus into an impossible paradox.
Because to save his home and his family from these internal barbarians, he has to commit one last undeniable sin.
Right.
He must break Zeus's law by shedding blood and slaughtering guests inside his own home.
Even though they are terrible guests.
True.
Yeah.
But he fully understands the weight of this. He knows the rules of civilization, and he voluntarily absorbs the sin of breaking them to protect Penelope and his son.
And the consequences are immediate. You can't just slaughter a room full of noblemen and go back to normal life.
No, their families will demand blood.
It would ignite a massive civil war. So Odysseus uses the wisdom of Athena to find the only solution that prevents Ithaca from tearing itself apart. He chooses exile.
A huge sacrifice.
He and Penelope sail away to the west to honor the dead. It's just like Frodo Baggins.
Yes.
You endure unimaginable trauma to save the Shire, but in doing so, you become too broken to actually live in it yourself.
The tragedy of the savior. Nolan nods heavily here to Dante's Inferno, where an aging Ulysses sails into the unknown west.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and also to Alfred Lord Tennyson's famous poem, Ulysses. Odysseus recognizes that his presence in Ithaca would only bring destruction.
Wow.
As they leave, he notes that the age of bronze is ending, the Jenga tower is finally falling.
Literacy is plummeting.
Yes, and he ushers in the era of oral poetry, knowing their story will only survive if it becomes a spoken warning.
It is a haunting, masterful vision. Nolan strips the romance away and leaves us with a stark mirror reflecting the fragility of civilization and the lingering, invisible wounds of war.
A society is only ever one generation or one major crisis away from the Bronze Age collapse.
That is a terrifying thought.
The rules only work if we collectively agree to enforce them, especially when it's inconvenient.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Nolan's incredibly layered vision of the Odyssey.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But before you go, we want to leave you with a final concept to mull over. If this film warns us that civilizations inevitably collapse when we prioritize deception and barbarism over hospitality, I want you to consider our modern digital landscape.
Oh, that's a great point.
In an era where internet anonymity so often breeds cruelty, constant deception, and a total terrifying lack of empathy for the lowest among us, ask yourself this. Is our digital behavior our very own Trojan horse?
Wow.
Are we willingly bringing it inside our walls, slowly rotting the foundations of our modern civilization from the inside out? Think about it. We'll see you next time.